Hi! Today I'll build a small portable rig using Tonex One and Vangoa Pedalboard. I was thinking about building it for a while, and I was going to use a small pedal train Nano that I had laying around for a while. However, I really hate external power supplies and that kind of stuff, so I wanted to have as much cables inside as possible. And this is exactly my main setup because I've got a bigger board and it's also got internal power supply. However, I didn't have a small Tonex pedal board, and since Vangoa contacted me, I decided, why not? Let's do it. Quick disclaimer, this pedalboard was sent to me for free, so you can say that this video is somehow sponsored. However, I always try to be as transparent with you and manufacturers, and one of the main things that I'm always telling them is the fact that I will basically tell you everything that I like and I don't like in this pedalboard. So, without further ado, let's go to the unboxing. Okay, here's a soft case with pedalboard. The build quality is okay, it's not like super expensive, but it gets the job done. And let's see what's inside. Okay, so we've got 2 strips of Velcro included. Apart from that, there is like a leaflet with possible connections, which people who are not experienced with pedalboards may find helpful. There are various adapters, in that case it will be mine, because in Poland we've got something like this. 18-volt power supply, cables for hooking up your effects into Vangoa pedalboard, and user manual in English, German, French and Spanish. Okay, and here is a pedalboard. First impressions, it feels fairly well made. It doesn't feel cheap at all, you know, it's got those legs that you can use to angle your pedalboard a little bit. There's an on-off switch and I really like it because in my bigger pedalboard, which is Spaceship by Thomann, you've only got a power cable and that's it. A lot of people will really like this for cable management because there's like an input and output that we can use. And there's like an LED strip. So let's plug it in. So this is quite fun. As you can notice when I powered it on, it's reacting to the audio. But you may not want it on stage, and there's like a knob which you can basically turn it off. Okay, as you can notice, I've already added the Velcro from this side and from this side. So now you're able to hook your pedals into your pedalboard and they won't fall. Here are the things that we need to complete this board. First of all, we need effects, and this pedalboard will be based on Tonex One. So this will be a main source of amplifier and cabinet tones. There's also a T-Box, which is a device that my friend is making, and it's based on Greg Smith open source project. Basically, if you plug the USB-C cable from here to here, you will be able to control MIDI. This one has a couple of things that I find really useful. It's got internal tap tempo, and it's also got a through. So basically, just for you to understand, the signal will go straight into the knobbles, which is my favorite overdrive, then it will go into the Tonex One, and then it will go straight into M5. And all the tones inside Tonex and M5 will be controlled using this Vangoa Chocolate MIDI controller. What else do we need? MIDI cables, cables for connecting the power, and in my case 2 patch cables, and one of them is stereo because I want to get out of Tonex in stereo into line 6 M5. So on one side it's TRS and on this one it's 2 mono jacks. So let's hook it up. Okay, one disclaimer, I forgot about this. We also need a USB-C to USB-C cable, and in case of T-Box, if you have a limited space, I would highly recommend to have an angled USB-C, because there's not much space. So basically, this will power a Tonex One, and then I'll be able to connect Tonex One with T-Box. Okay, and I completely forgot that I'm using Vangoa chocolate and not like big MIDI controller. So I'll be using that kind of MIDI cable. From one end it will go into the pedal of M-Vava, and on the other side it will go into the input of M5. So now I'll be able to send wirelessly the MIDI signal to the Tonex One, and through this cable I'll be sending a channel 2 into line 6. So let's hook it up. So everything is powered on, everything works very smoothly. As you can notice, when I'm changing the preset, it is changing to number 1 here, because I've got it set up this way. To the number 2, 3, 4, and then when I'm changing banks, it goes to 5, 6, 7, and 8. And it's exactly the same inside the Tonex One, however you can change it to something different. The LEDs are not changing because it's exactly the same tone on those two, and I'm basically only changing effects here. So for example, in the preset number 1 I've got analog with mod, and on the second one I've got digital delay with mod. Of course you can change it to something completely different, so you can have, for example, 2 instances of the same tone but with different effects. And it's really insane that you can get so much stuff inside such a small, pedal board, which also has got an isolated power. So it's very easy to make it very neat. I'll probably have to add some zip ties to make it, look better once I'll be done with everything. But for now it's working fine. It's got that fancy LED strip if I want to have it. So the only thing that's left to do is to plug it in and hear what it sounds like. So I'll see you in a while in a studio. Okay, so I'm back in studio, and as you can notice, the pedal board is complete. There's one small problem, and unlucky I didn't think about it, because Line 6 M5 requires at least 500 mAh of power, and unluckily 500 mAh outputs are available in bigger Vangoa Pedalboard, not in this one. So basically I am using external power supply, but only for Line 6 M5, and the rest is powered using Vangoa Pedalboard. However, I really like the cleanliness of this setup, so probably I will add a power bank for Line 6 M5. But as I said, it's a minor issue, but you have to keep that in mind. If you've got effects that requires a lot of power, you'll probably have to use external power supply. However, as you were able to see before, to my surprise, if I unplug the bigger power supply and I plug Vangoa Pedalboard power supply here, and as you can notice, right now it's working, right? And it's all on internal power, but I wouldn't really risk to take it to the gig, especially since I'm using MIDI and I want to change the effects inside here. So even though outputs are only 100 mAh, they can power the Line 6 M5 and it somehow works. However, as I said, if you want to be safe, take another power supply and use it with more power-consuming pedals, or get a bigger version of this pedal board. Okay, as I said, the signal flow is fairly basic. Signal from my guitar goes straight into the knobbles overdrive, then it goes into the Tonex pedal, then using the stereo out, it goes into the Line 6 M5, and then those two cables are going straight into my audio interface, which is Audient Evo 16. The guitar I am using is Samick MB2 Malibu with Fishman Fluence single with pickups. Basically, those are noiseless single coils, and all the presets that you're hearing are actually made for this guitar. So they are slightly different because those pickups are really close to the Strat pickups, but they required some tweaking to get what I wanted. And the first tone is basically an AC30, plus on Line 6 M5 I've got analog with mod delay. So here's what it sounds like completely dry, straight from the Tonex. Let's add the M5. This is great. It's really surprising how well this M5 is holding, because the effects are really good, and it's a very good companion for your Tonex because it's got 100 effects, so you know, you can play basically everything you want if you've got a MIDI control. Okay, so let's play a little bit. So far I didn't really notice any ground loops. Fishman pickups are really quiet, however there's a lot of interference where I have a studio right now. So basically if the power supply would add a noise, you'll probably hear it instantly. Okay, next tone is my fake humbucker jazz tone. And this tone is based on my clean pack George Benson tone. There are no effects in Line 6, basically it's a reverb from Tonex, but let's say I want to add a rotary, okay? So let's go to the rotary drum and let's hear what it sounds like. And the great thing about this MIDI setup is the fact that both Line 6 and Tonex is automatically saving. So let's turn to the preset number A and then go to the preset number B. And now let's turn it off. Let's go to A and right now go back to B. And it's turned off. Okay, presets number 3 and 4 are based on my free Thomann model, and it's Tim Pierce Scratch, and I think it was a bad cut. So let's go to the number 3, which is basically a rhythm tone. Really responsive. And last but not least, the fourth preset is the same tone, but I changed a little bit the EQ and added a little bit more gain. And on Line 6 there's a ping pong delay with a little different settings. Okay, preset number 7 is kind of interesting because it can show you the possibilities of those Fishman pickups. Basically, it's a tone from my 5150 pack, but I tweak a little bit to work on those pickups. And it sounds like this. Last but not least, my go-to Soldano tone, which is a part of my modded SLO pack. So, to sum up, would I recommend this pedal board? Well, if you don't really need something super fancy, you don't have like Strymon pedals that requires a lot of power and that kind of stuff, I think it's a fairly good and inexpensive option. It's really lightweight. Basically, I can take it anywhere and it sounds great. I've got all of my favorite Tonex tones inside here, and basically, apart from the additional power supply, it's got everything I need. Thanks a lot for watching. If you want to check out Vangoa products, links will be in the video description below. Also, if you want to get the tones from my video, or any other Tonex tones, I would highly recommend you to go to my website, www.galtonstudio.com, where you can find all of my Tonex packs. See you in the next video. Bye!